I never expected to find out my expensive art class was canceled until an email thanking me for my decision arrived. My son Gregory had canceled it, using the $2,500 refund to buy his wife a diamond necklace. When confronted, he shrugged, saying, "Your money ends up with me anyway, Mom." His smug expression faded when I smiled and made a single phone call. As the color drained from his face, he realized he'd crossed a line that would change everything between us. Subscribe to hear how I got my money back and taught my son a lesson about respecting boundaries. Before I dive into this story, I'd love to know where you're watching from today. Drop your location in the comments below. If you enjoy stories about standing up for yourself, hit that like button and subscribe to join our community. Now let me tell you how a single phone call changed my relationship with my son forever. My name is Eleanor, and at 67 years old, I thought I knew my son better than anyone else in the world. I spent 35 years as a high school English teacher before retiring, always finding joy in helping young minds discover their potential. Teaching was my career, but art was always my passion. A passion I had to set aside while raising Gregory and supporting my husband Walter. Walter and I had a beautiful 42 years together before a sudden heart attack took him 5 years ago. His passing left a void in my life that I never truly filled, but it also gave me the opportunity to finally pursue what I had always dreamed of. Art wasn't just a hobby for me. It represented a second chance, a way to rediscover myself after decades of putting everyone else first. I had carefully saved $2,500 from my teacher's pension and Walter's life insurance to enroll in an 8-week masterclass with Diana Holloway, one of the most celebrated watercolor artists in the country. Getting accepted wasn't easy. It required submitting a portfolio and competing against dozens of other applicants. When I received the acceptance email, I cried tears of joy. The class would culminate in a small exhibition at the Riverdale Gallery, a respected venue that typically only featured established artists. Gregory had always been my pride and joy. At 42, he had a successful career in marketing, a beautiful home in the suburbs, and had been married to Vanessa for 15 years. They chose not to have children, focusing instead on their careers and lifestyle. I respected their decision, never pressuring them about grandchildren, even though I sometimes wondered what it would be like to have little ones around again. In recent years, I noticed subtle changes in Gregory's attitude toward me. After Walter passed, he became more interested in my financial affairs. At first, I appreciated his concern. Navigating widowhood and finances alone was daunting. But his questions gradually became more probing, his suggestions more insistent. "Mom, why are you keeping Dad's old Mustang? The maintenance costs are ridiculous." Or, "That cruise you're planning is expensive. Wouldn't you rather save that money?" I maintained my independence, politely but firmly making it clear that I could manage my own affairs. My retirement wasn't lavish, but between my pension and Walter's careful planning, I was comfortable. I had always been frugal, setting aside small amounts for special experiences like the art class. Investments in joy, as Walter used to call them. Gregory and Vanessa lived well, but sometimes stretched beyond their means. Their new house in Oakwood Estates came with a hefty mortgage. Vanessa drove a luxury SUV that seemed to require expensive maintenance every few months. They took impressive vacations that filled my Facebook feed with exotic locations and elegant restaurants. I never judged their choices, but sometimes wondered if they were building their life on a foundation that could withstand unexpected storms. Vanessa had expensive taste, something Gregory seemed simultaneously proud of and stressed by. Her 40th birthday was approaching, and Gregory had mentioned wanting to get her something truly special several times during our weekly Sunday dinners. I suggested thoughtful gifts that didn't require spending a fortune, but he seemed dismissive. "Mom, you don't understand. Vanessa deserves the best." The art class was scheduled to begin on a Tuesday in September. I had prepared for months, practicing techniques, watching Diana's online tutorials, and upgrading my supplies. The night before, I could hardly sleep, feeling like a child on Christmas Eve. I laid out my clothes, packed my new art case, and set 2 alarms to ensure I wouldn't be late. That morning, I woke to an email that stopped me cold. "Thank you for canceling your enrollment in the Diana Holloway Masterclass. Your refund of $2,500 has been processed and will appear in your account within 3 to 5 business days. Confused and panicked, I immediately called the art center. The administrative assistant, Melissa, explained that someone identifying himself as my son had called 3 days prior, explaining that I had a medical emergency and would need to withdraw from the class. He had provided all the necessary information to process the refund, information only family would know. "I'm so sorry to hear about your fall, Mrs. Parker," Melissa said, genuine concern in her voice. "Your son mentioned you broke your wrist." My blood ran cold. There was no fall. There was no broken wrist. And I certainly hadn't authorized anyone to cancel my class. I checked my bank account online. The refund hadn't posted yet, but there was something else concerning. An attempted password change notification from 2 days ago that I had missed in my spam folder. Someone had tried to access my account. The dots were connecting, forming a picture I didn't want to see. I sat at my kitchen table, surrounded by the art supplies I had so carefully gathered, trying to process what was happening. The class had already started with someone else taking my spot. Diana wouldn't offer another master class for at least a year, if at all. My dream had been snatched away without my knowledge or consent. And the person responsible was my own son. I didn't call Gregory. This wasn't a conversation for the phone. Instead, I drove the 20 minutes to his house, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. I had always taught Gregory that we face our mistakes directly, and I intended to give him that opportunity now. It was just past 11 in the morning when I pulled into their circular driveway. Gregory would be at work, but Vanessa often worked from home on Tuesdays. I needed answers before confronting my son. Vanessa answered the door in workout clothes, surprised to see me. "Eleanor, what a lovely surprise. I just finished a Pilates session. Come in, come in." As we walked through their marble-floored entryway into the kitchen, something caught my eye. Around Vanessa's neck was a stunning diamond pendant on a white gold chain, clearly new and unmistakably expensive. My stomach tightened. "That's a beautiful necklace," I said, working to keep my voice steady. Vanessa's hand went to it automatically, her face lighting up. "Isn't it gorgeous? Gregory surprised me yesterday. Said he couldn't wait until my birthday next month." She leaned closer, lowering her voice conspiratorially. "He said it cost a fortune but that I was worth every penny. It's from Cartier." I felt lightheaded but managed to smile. "It's stunning. Is Gregory working from home today by any chance?" "He's in his office upstairs. Been on calls all morning, but I'm sure he'd love to see you. Can I get you some tea first?" I declined and made my way upstairs, each step heavier than the last. Gregory's home office door was partially open. He sat at his desk, back to me, talking on the phone about marketing strategies and quarterly projections. I waited until he hung up before knocking. "Mom!" His surprise seemed genuine as he turned around. "This is unexpected. Is everything okay?" "No, Gregory, everything is not okay." I closed the door behind me. "I received an interesting email this morning about my art class being canceled. The class I've been looking forward to for months." His expression shifted subtly, a tightening around the eyes, a slight tension in his shoulders. Signs I recognized from when he was a boy caught in a lie. "I don't understand," he said, though his eyes told me he understood perfectly. "I think you do. The art center told me my son called to cancel my enrollment, claiming I had broken my wrist. They've already refunded the money." Paused watching him, and I couldn't help but notice Vanessa's new necklace. Gregory sighed, running his hand through his hair, a gesture so like his father it momentarily broke my heart. "Mom, I can explain." "Please do." He gestured for me to sit in the leather chair across from his desk, but I remained standing. After an uncomfortable silence, he began. "Vanessa's turning 40 next month. You know how important milestone birthdays are to her. I wanted to get her something really special, but with the new roof repairs and property taxes due." He trailed off, then squared his shoulders. "I was going to pay you back, of course. It was just a temporary solution." "A temporary solution?" My voice was quiet. "You canceled something I've been dreaming about for years, lied about a medical emergency, and tried to access my bank account, all without my knowledge or permission." "I didn't try to access your bank account," he protested quickly. "Then who did?" The same day you called to cancel my class, someone attempted to change my password. He had the decency to look ashamed, but only briefly. Look, I know I should have asked you first, but you would have said no, and this was really important. You can take another art class anytime. That's not your decision to make, Gregory. That class was by application only. The instructor only teaches it once a year, if that. My spot is gone. Mom, you're 75% of the way to being a senior citizen. Diana Holloway will offer other classes. Vanessa only turns 40 once. He leaned forward, his tone softening in a way that suddenly felt manipulative. Besides, your money ends up with me anyway. I'm your only child, your heir. I just moved up the timeline a bit. The words hit me like a physical blow. I stared at my son, this man I had raised to be respectful, honest, and kind, and for a moment I didn't recognize him. Is that how you see me? As a bank account with an expiration date? That's not what I meant, he backpedaled, but the damage was done. I just meant that family helps family. You taught me that. Remember when you sold your grandmother's silver to pay for my soccer camp? This is the same thing. It is not the same thing. I made that choice. You took this choice from me. I turned to leave, needing air, needing space. Mom, wait. Don't make this a bigger deal than it is. Vanessa doesn't know where the money came from. It would crush her. I paused at the door. Then perhaps you should have thought of that before you stole from me. Stole? Mom, come on. I borrowed without asking. There's a difference. Not to me, there isn't. I left without looking back, passing Vanessa in the hallway with a tight smile I didn't feel. The drive home was a blur. Tears threatened, but I held them back. I had always prided myself on raising a son with strong values. Where had I gone wrong? Or was this new side of Gregory something that had developed in adulthood, perhaps influenced by the pressure to maintain appearances in their affluent neighborhood? I thought of all the times in recent months when Gregory had questioned my spending or suggested I simplify my life by selling things that mattered to me. The pattern was there, but I had been too trusting to see it. Back home, I sat in Walter's old armchair, wishing desperately I could talk to him about this. He had always been better at confrontation than I was. Ellie, he would say, you can be kind without being a doormat. Today, I needed to remember that wisdom more than ever. The next morning, I called my best friend Martha for coffee. We'd been friends since our first teaching jobs 40 years ago, and if anyone could help me make sense of this situation, it was her. We met at our favorite cafe, a quiet corner spot where we could talk privately. Martha listened intently as I recounted what had happened, her expression growing increasingly troubled. When I finished, she reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Eleanor, I didn't want to worry you, but this isn't the first concerning thing I've heard about Gregory recently. My stomach tightened. What do you mean? Martha sighed. At Diane's retirement party last month, Gregory cornered Jim and started asking him about elder care management and how I had given him power of attorney after my hip surgery. He mentioned something about managing Mom's finances because you were making some concerning decisions. Jim thought it was odd enough to mention to me. I felt the color drain from my face. He said that? To your son? He did. Jim was uncomfortable with the conversation, especially when Gregory asked if I had updated my will recently. A cold feeling spread through me. I remembered incidents I had dismissed, Gregory questioning the monthly donation I made to the local animal shelter where I volunteered. His persistent suggestions that I sell Walter's 1965 Mustang that I kept more for sentimental value than practical use. The unsolicited financial advisor he brought to Sunday dinner who kept talking about consolidating assets and simplified estate planning. There's more, I admitted. Last week, I got a call from my bank verifying a change of address request I never made. The address they had was Gregory's. When I told them I hadn't submitted any change, they flagged my account for potential fraud. Martha's eyes widened. Eleanor, this sounds like... She hesitated. Like what? Like the beginning of financial elder abuse. Remember when my sister Patricia went through this with her daughter? It started small. Borrowing money, questioning purchases, offering to simplify bill payments. Before Patricia knew it, her name had been removed from her own accounts. Gregory wouldn't go that far, I said automatically, but doubt crept in. Would he? I don't know. But what he's already done is serious. He canceled something important to you, lied about it, took your money, and then essentially told you that your money belongs to him anyway because he'll inherit it someday. Those are major red flags. That afternoon, I did something I'd never done before. I went through my financial records meticulously, looking for anything unusual. What I found disturbed me. There had been 3 password reset attempts on my main email account in the past month. A credit card statement showed an inquiry about adding an authorized user, something I had never requested. My online banking showed login attempts from an unrecognized device. I called my sister Barbara in Arizona, needing another perspective. Barbara had always been direct to the point of bluntness, a quality that sometimes caused tension but was exactly what I needed now. You need to lock down your accounts immediately, she said after I explained the situation. And you need to make it crystal clear to Gregory that his behavior is unacceptable. This isn't just about the art class anymore, Ellie. This is about your autonomy. I know, I admitted. But he's my son. My only child. Which makes this betrayal worse, not better, Barbara countered. Has he shown any other concerning behaviors? Anything controlling or dismissive? I thought about it. He's been increasingly critical of how I spend my time. When I mentioned wanting to join a travel group for seniors, he said it was a waste of money at my age. He suggested I should be focusing on family, instead of gallivanting around with strangers. And let me guess. Focusing on family means being available whenever he and Vanessa want something? The accuracy of her assessment stung. He's been pushing me to consider selling my house. Says it's too big for just me. That maintenance will become a burden as I get older. Where does he suggest you live instead? They have a finished basement they've talked about converting into an in-law suite. He says it would be easier for everyone. Barbara was silent for a moment. Easier for whom? You love your home. It's where you and Walter built your life, where all your memories are. And your independence would be severely limited living in their basement. Her words crystallized something I had been feeling but couldn't articulate. This wasn't just about an art class or a necklace. This was about control. About Gregory seeing me not as a person with my own dreams and agency, but as an asset to be managed. I spent the evening writing in my journal, something I'd done since college. The process always helped clarify my thoughts. I wrote about the deep hurt of realizing my son viewed my money as his inheritance rather than my means to live a fulfilling life. I wrote about my fear that setting boundaries would damage our relationship, and my greater fear of what would happen if I didn't. I remembered a conversation with Martha years ago, when her daughter had tried to pressure her into selling her vacation cabin to fund a business venture. Martha had stood firm, and though there had been tension for months, their relationship eventually recovered on more honest footing. Could Gregory and I find our way back to mutual respect? I wasn't sure, but I knew the path forward couldn't include pretending this hadn't happened. The next day, I called Frank Reynolds, the financial advisor Walter and I had worked with for years. I explained the situation in clinical terms, focusing on the facts rather than my emotional turmoil. Frank's response was immediate and firm. Eleanor, we need to take steps to secure your accounts right away. What Gregory did wasn't just ethically wrong. Accessing your accounts without permission borders on illegal. With Frank's guidance, I spent the morning changing passwords, setting up two-factor authentication, and placing alerts on all my accounts. He recommended I consult with Patricia Winters, an elder law attorney he knew, about reviewing my estate planning documents. It might be time to reconsider having Gregory as your power of attorney and healthcare proxy, Frank suggested gently. There are independent fiduciaries who can serve in those roles if needed. The suggestion made my heart ache, but I knew he was right. The son I thought I knew would never have stolen from me or dismissed my dreams as unimportant. I needed to protect myself while I figured out who this Gregory really was. Sunday dinner had been a tradition in our family since Gregory moved out for college. Even after Walter passed, I maintained it, finding comfort in the routine. This Sunday, I considered canceling but decided against it. We needed to have this conversation, and neutral territory would have been better, but the familiar setting of my dining room might help keep things civil. I prepared Gregory's favorite meal, pot roast with roasted potatoes and Walter's secret recipe apple pie for dessert. Not as a peace offering, but as a reminder of our shared history, of the love that I hope still formed the foundation of our relationship despite recent events. Gregory and Vanessa arrived at 5 exactly on time as always. Vanessa brought a bottle of wine and a bouquet of lilies. The necklace glittered at her throat, catching the light as she moved. "Something smells amazing, Mom," Gregory said, kissing my cheek as if nothing had happened between us. Perhaps he thought I would let it go, smooth things over as I had done with so many childhood transgressions. But this wasn't a broken window or a curfew violation. This was a fundamental breach of trust. We made small talk through the main course, their work, neighborhood news, a movie they'd seen recently. I waited until I served the pie before bringing up what was really on my mind. "I want to talk about what happened with my art class," I said calmly, looking directly at Gregory. His fork paused halfway to his mouth. "Mom, I thought we discussed this already." "No, you gave excuses, and I was too shocked to respond properly. Now I want to have a real conversation." Vanessa looked between us, confused. "What's this about an art class?" I turned to her. "The necklace you're wearing was purchased with money Gregory took from me by canceling an art class I had enrolled in. A class that was very important to me." Her hand flew to the pendant, her eyes widening as she turned to Gregory. "Is this true?" Gregory's face flushed. "It's not how it sounds. I was going to pay Mom back." "When?" I asked. "And how? You made this decision without consulting me, canceled something I've been looking forward to for months, and then dismissed my feelings entirely." "It's just an art class," Gregory said, his voice rising slightly. "You can take another one." "No, I can't. That class was with Diana Holloway. She only teaches once a year, and spots are limited. I had to apply and be accepted. My opportunity is gone because you decided your wife's birthday present was more important than my dreams. At your age, should you really be starting new ventures anyway?" Gregory's words had a practiced quality, as if he'd been waiting for an opportunity to say them. "Most people your age are downsizing, simplifying. You're taking classes talking about traveling. It's not practical." "Practical for whom?" "I'm 67, not 97. I'm in good health, financially stable, and mentally sharp. Why shouldn't I pursue interests that bring me joy?" "Because your real purpose now should be helping the family, being there for us, for any grandchildren that might come along." Vanessa looked startled at this. "Gregory, we decided. I'm just saying Mom's resources could be better used supporting family than on hobbies." The word hobbies stung. Art wasn't a hobby to me. It was a passion I had deferred for decades while raising him, teaching full-time, and supporting Walter's career. "You gave up painting when I was born," Gregory continued. "You always said family came first. Why is that different now?" "I did put family first. For 40 years. Now I'm finally taking time for myself. And you're suggesting that's selfish." "Not selfish, just misguided." His tone was condescending. "Look at the financial realities. That art class cost $2,500. Do you know what that money could do for our home renovation? Or for a college fund if we have kids? So my money should go toward hypothetical grandchildren rather than my actual life?" I asked, incredulous. Vanessa set down her fork with a clatter. "Gregory, you told me the necklace was within our budget. You said we could afford it. We can eventually. I just needed a temporary solution. By stealing from your mother?" Vanessa's voice rose. "I can't believe this. I can't wear this knowing where the money came from." She reached behind her neck, struggling with the clasp. "Don't be dramatic," Gregory said. "Mom's fine financially. She doesn't need that money." "That's not your decision to make," I said quietly. "And it's not about whether I need the money. It's about respect for my choices and my autonomy." "Respect?" Gregory laughed bitterly. "What about the respect I deserve as your son? You spent my entire childhood putting other things ahead of me. Grading papers instead of coming to my games, working summer school instead of taking family vacations. Now you have the chance to make up for that, and you're choosing paint and brushes over family. Again." His words hit like a physical blow. Had he always resented my career? Had my attempts to balance work and motherhood left him feeling shortchanged? "I did the best I could," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "I was building a future for us, showing you the importance of education and hard work. Well, I learned that lesson. I work hard so Vanessa can have nice things so we can live in a good neighborhood. I'm trying to build security for our future. A future that includes taking care of you when you can no longer take care of yourself. I don't need you to take care of me. I need you to respect me. Respect goes both ways, Mom. And speaking of respect, I took the liberty of canceling that art retreat you signed up for next month too. The one in Santa Fe? That was another $5,000 you don't need to waste. I stared at him, speechless. The Santa Fe retreat had been my birthday gift to myself. A week of intensive painting in the desert landscapes I'd always wanted to capture. I had booked it months ago, long before the Diana Holloway class. You did what? My voice was barely audible. Vanessa looked horrified. Gregory, tell me you didn't. The cancellation fee was only 20%. I saved her $4,000. He looked pleased with himself. That money is better off in secure investments. I've been talking to a financial advisor about the best way to consolidate Mom's assets. I stood up abruptly, nearly knocking over my water glass. I think you should leave. Mom, don't overreact. I'm trying to help you. No, you're trying to control me. There's a difference. I walked to the front door and opened it. Please go. Gregory looked genuinely surprised, as if he couldn't understand my reaction. Vanessa gathered her purse, her face flushed with embarrassment. I'm so sorry, Eleanor, she whispered as they left. I had no idea. After they drove away, I closed the door and leaned against it, finally allowing the tears to come. I cried for the dreams that had been taken from me, for the son who saw me as a resource rather than a person, and for the profound disappointment of realizing that the child I had raised didn't respect the most basic boundaries. I spent the evening in Walter's chair, surrounded by old photo albums, pictures of Gregory as a toddler, beaming as he showed me a finger painting. Gregory at his high school graduation, his arm around my shoulder. Gregory at his wedding, dancing with me during the mother-son dance. Where had that loving boy gone? When had he started seeing me as an obstacle to manage rather than a person to cherish? Morning came after a restless night. I sat at my small easel by the window, painting the sunrise with quick, angry strokes. The colors blended and bled together, oranges and reds colliding in a fiery display that matched my inner turmoil. As the sun climbed higher, my brushstrokes slowed, became more deliberate. Clarity emerged from chaos, both on the canvas and in my mind. I knew what I needed to do. Monday morning, I called Frank Reynolds and requested an urgent meeting. He rearranged his schedule to see me that afternoon. I arrived at his office with a list of questions and concerns. I need to know exactly what rights I have and what steps I can take to secure my finances, I told him. And I need to know what Gregory could potentially access without my permission. Frank's expression was sympathetic but serious. Eleanor, based on what you've told me, I'm concerned about potential financial elder abuse. It often begins with small boundary violations that escalate over time. He's my son, I said automatically. Unfortunately, family members are the most common perpetrators of elder financial abuse. They rationalize it by telling themselves they'll inherit the money eventually anyway, or that they know what's best for their parent. Frank outlined several immediate steps. Removing Gregory as an authorized contact on all accounts, changing my power of attorney, updating my will, and considering a revocable trust with specific provisions about how my assets could be used during my lifetime. I can recommend several excellent elder law attorneys who specialize in these matters, he said. Patricia Winters is one of the best. She helps clients maintain independence while protecting their assets. I made an appointment with Patricia for Wednesday. In the meantime, I called the art school to explain my situation. The administrator, Melissa, was sympathetic. Mrs. Parker, I'm so sorry this happened. The class is full now, but let me speak with Diana. She might be willing to work something out. To my surprise, Diana herself called back that afternoon. Eleanor, Melissa told me what happened. Your portfolio was impressive. I was looking forward to working with you. I can't add you to the current class, but I could offer you the group sessions plus 3 private lessons to help you catch up. There would be an additional cost for the private sessions, but you'd still be able to participate in the exhibition. The generosity of her offer brought tears to my eyes. That would be wonderful, thank you. We artists need to stick together, Diana said warmly. And I don't like seeing passion thwarted by circumstances, or by people who don't understand what art means to us. Next, I called my bank and arranged for enhanced security on all my accounts, removing Gregory's emergency access that I'd granted after Walter died. The bank representative suggested a financial inventory, documenting all accounts, investments, insurance policies, and other assets to ensure nothing had been altered without my knowledge. Tuesday morning, I called Barbara and asked if she would be willing to serve as my healthcare proxy and executor instead of Gregory. Her immediate, of course, was both a relief and a heartbreak. This wasn't how I had envisioned my later years, having to protect myself from my own child. Wednesday afternoon, I met with Patricia Winters. She was a no-nonsense woman in her 50s with a direct manner that I appreciated. Based on what you've described, we need to make several changes to your estate plan, she said after listening to my situation. I recommend a revocable living trust with your sister as successor trustee. We'll also draft a new power of attorney and healthcare directive. And we should discuss whether you want to maintain Gregory as a beneficiary or establish certain conditions. I don't want to disinherit him, I said quickly. Despite everything, he's still my son. We can structure the trust with specific provisions, perhaps disbursements over time rather than a lump sum, or funds designated for particular purposes. The goal is to protect your assets during your lifetime, while still honoring your wishes regarding inheritance. We spent 2 hours reviewing documents and outlining a new estate plan. Patricia promised to have drafts ready for my review by early next week. As I was preparing to leave, she handed me her card with her cell phone number written on the back. Call me anytime, Eleanor. And remember, what you're doing isn't punitive. It's protective. You have every right to safeguard your financial independence. I was sitting at my kitchen table the next day, on the phone with Patricia discussing the details of the trust, when I heard a key in the front door. Gregory walked in, using the emergency key I had given him years ago. Seeing me on the phone, he waved and headed for the refrigerator, helping himself to a soda as if nothing had happened between us. I continued my conversation, making no effort to lower my voice. Yes, Patricia, I think a revocable trust is the best option. And I agree that removing Gregory as power of attorney is necessary given recent events. Gregory froze, soda can halfway to his lips. I'd like to proceed with appointing Barbara as both healthcare proxy and successor trustee, I continued, maintaining eye contact with Gregory. And regarding the provision we discussed about structured disbursements rather than lump sum inheritance, yes, that seems appropriate under the circumstances. Gregory set down the can, his face paling as the implications of my conversation became clear. Can we schedule the signing for Monday? Perfect. And you'll file the revocation of the current power of attorney today? Excellent. Thank you for your help with all of this. I ended the call and set my phone down calmly, still looking at Gregory. Mom, what are you doing? His voice was strained. Protecting myself. From what? From me? Your own son. He laughed nervously. Isn't this an overreaction to one mistake? It wasn't one mistake, Gregory. It was a pattern of behavior that shows a fundamental lack of respect for my autonomy. You canceled my art class without permission. You tried to access my accounts. You canceled my Santa Fe retreat. You've been questioning my spending, pushing me to sell my house and car, and generally treating me like I'm incapable of managing my own affairs. I was trying to help. His voice rose. Someone needs to look out for your interests. I am perfectly capable of looking out for my own interests, and my interest right now is in protecting my financial independence. Gregory paced the kitchen, running his hand through his hair in agitation. So what, you're cutting me off? Disinheriting me? No. But I am removing your access to my accounts, changing my power of attorney, and establishing a trust with specific provisions about how my assets can be used, both during my lifetime and after. This is ridiculous. You're acting like I'm some kind of criminal. What you did was wrong, Gregory. Legally and morally wrong. You stole from me, then dismissed my feelings about it completely. I borrowed money that would have been mine eventually anyway. That's not how inheritance works. My money is mine until I die. I earned it. I decide how to spend it. The fact that you don't understand that distinction is exactly why these changes are necessary." He stopped pacing, his expression shifting from anger to calculation. "Mom, I think you're being influenced by someone. Who's been talking to you? Is it Aunt Barbara? She's always been jealous of our relationship." The attempt at manipulation was so transparent it almost made me laugh. "I'm not being influenced by anyone except you, Gregory. Your actions showed me I need to protect myself. You don't need protection from me. I'm your son." "Yes, you are. And I love you. But love without respect isn't enough." I stood up, suddenly tired of the conversation. I've re-enrolled in the art class with additional private lessons to catch up on what I missed. I've also rebooked the Santa Fe retreat. Those are my choices to make. Gregory's face flushed with anger. "This is about more than art classes, isn't it? This is about you choosing yourself over family. Just like you always did." The accusation stung, but I refused to be baited. "No, this is about me refusing to be controlled or manipulated. I supported you through college, helped with the down payment on your first house, and have been there for every important moment of your life. Don't you dare accuse me of not prioritizing family. Then why are you doing this? Why are you shutting me out?" "I'm not shutting you out.
I'm establishing boundaries."
There's a difference." I walked to the front door and opened it. "I think we both need some time to reflect on what kind of relationship we want going forward." Gregory stood in my kitchen, looking suddenly lost. Like the little boy who had once accidentally broken my favorite vase and couldn't understand why superglue couldn't fix everything. For a moment, my resolve wavered. Then I remembered the dismissive way he had said, "Your money ends up with me anyway," and my determination returned. "We'll talk again when you're ready to acknowledge what you did and why it was wrong," I said gently but firmly. After a moment of tense silence, he walked out without another word. The following week was one of the most difficult of my life. Gregory called multiple times, his messages cycling through anger, defensiveness, bargaining, and guilt-tripping. I let most go to voicemail, responding only with brief texts asking for space until he was ready to really talk. I met with Patricia again to sign the new estate documents. The revocable trust named Barbara as successor trustee, with provisions for Gregory to receive his inheritance in structured disbursements rather than a lump sum. I also signed a new healthcare directive and power of attorney, removing Gregory from both. "These changes aren't irrevocable," Patricia reminded me. "If circumstances change, we can always revise the documents again." The possibility of reconciliation was a small comfort, but I wasn't holding my breath. Gregory's behavior suggested he felt entitled to control my finances, a mindset that wouldn't change overnight. On Friday afternoon, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Vanessa standing there, looking uncomfortable but determined. "Can we talk?" she asked. "Just us." I invited her in and made tea while she sat nervously at my kitchen table, turning her wedding ring around her finger. "I wanted to apologize," she began. "I had no idea where the money for the necklace came from. I would never have accepted it if I'd known." "I believe you," I said, and I did. Vanessa had always been direct, sometimes to a fault. "This isn't your fault." She pulled a small velvet box from her purse and placed it on the table. "I want you to have this. Sell it, return it, whatever you think is best. It was never mine to begin with." The gesture touched me deeply. "Thank you, Vanessa. That means a lot." She hesitated, then continued. "There's something else you should know. This isn't the first time Gregory has borrowed money without asking." My stomach tightened. "What do you mean?" "Last year, he took money from our home renovation fund for a business investment that failed. About $15,000. He replaced most of it eventually, but..." She looked down at her hands. "We've been having financial problems for a while now. Gregory keeps it from me, but I found past due notices. The new roof we needed? We put it on a credit card with 22% interest because our home equity line was maxed out." The revelation was shocking but somehow not surprising. It explained Gregory's increasing interest in my finances. He was struggling with his own. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked gently. "Because I think Gregory needs help. Real help, not just money. He's always been focused on appearances, on having the right house in the right neighborhood, the right car, the right lifestyle. But it's gotten worse in the last few years, especially after his promotion when all his new colleagues lived in Oakwood Estates. We talked for over an hour. Vanessa shared her concerns about their financial situation and Gregory's increasing secretiveness about money. I shared my hurt over his actions and attitude toward me. I've suggested counseling, both financial and marital, Vanessa said. He refuses. Says we just need to increase our income, not decrease our spending. That sounds like Gregory, I sighed. Always looking for more rather than appreciating what he has. When Vanessa left, she hugged me tightly. I'm on your side in this, Eleanor. What Gregory did was wrong. I've told him so repeatedly. The next day, Barbara flew in from Arizona to help me navigate the family fallout. Gregory had apparently been calling various relatives, painting himself as the victim of my sudden irrational behavior. Some believed him, including Walter's brother Thomas, who called to ask if I was thinking clearly these days. Perfectly clearly, I told him. Clear enough to recognize when someone is trying to control my finances against my wishes. Barbara suggested a family meeting to clear the air. Not just you and Gregory, she said, but the extended family too. Get everything out in the open. I agreed reluctantly. We arranged for Sunday dinner at my house with Thomas and his wife Jean, Barbara, Gregory and Vanessa, and my nephew Michael who lived nearby. The atmosphere was tense from the moment everyone arrived. Gregory barely looked at me, focusing his charm offensive on Thomas and Jean. Once everyone was seated with plates of lasagna, I addressed the elephant in the room. I know Gregory has spoken to some of you about changes I've made to my estate planning, I began. I want to explain my reasons directly. I laid out the facts as objectively as possible. The canceled art class, the attempted account access, the canceled retreat, Gregory's statement about my money being his anyway, and his increasingly controlling attitude about my spending. I've worked my entire life, saved carefully, and planned for a retirement that includes pursuing interests I had to set aside while raising Gregory and supporting Walter's career. I will not apologize for wanting to enjoy the fruits of that labor now. Thomas shifted uncomfortably. But Eleanor, family comes first. Surely a painting class isn't worth creating this rift. This isn't about a painting class, Barbara interjected sharply. This is about respect and autonomy. Would you be okay with someone canceling your golf membership and taking the money without asking, Tom? Then telling you that your hobby isn't important at your age? Thomas had no response to that. I'm not cutting Gregory off, I continued. I've simply put protections in place to ensure that my wishes about my own money are respected during my lifetime. Protections from your own son, Gregory said bitterly, breaking his silence. Do you know how that makes me look to the family? Like I'm some kind of financial predator. Your actions made you look that way, Vanessa said quietly. Not your mother's response to them. Gregory stared at her, betrayal written across his face. You're taking her side? I'm on the side of truth and respect, Vanessa replied. What you did was wrong, Gregory. You know it was wrong. And instead of apologizing and making amends, you've been doubling down and trying to make your mother seem unreasonable for being upset. The room fell silent. Jean, who had been quiet until now, cleared her throat. I think Vanessa's right. If someone took money from me without asking, even family, I'd be very hurt, and I'd want to protect myself from it happening again. One by one, the family members expressed similar sentiments. Michael mentioned how much the art class had meant to me, how I'd talked about it for months. Barbara recounted how I had supported Gregory throughout his life, financially and emotionally. Even Thomas eventually acknowledged that taking the money without permission had been inappropriate. Gregory sat in stunned silence, his narrative of being the reasonable son dealing with a difficult mother crumbling around him. I love you, Gregory, I said finally. That hasn't changed. But love without respect isn't a healthy relationship. I need to know that you understand why what you did was wrong. Not just because others are telling you so, but because you genuinely get it. I was trying to help, he said, but the defense sounded hollow even to his own ears. No, you were trying to control, Barbara corrected. There's a difference. After dinner, as everyone was leaving, Gregory lingered behind. He looked deflated, the anger replaced by something that might have been the beginning of remorse. I don't know how to fix this, he admitted. Start by really listening, I suggested. Not to defend or explain, but to understand why your actions hurt me so deeply. And then we take it one day at a time. Trust, once broken, isn't easily repaired. But it's not impossible. He nodded slowly. Would you be open to some kind of counseling? Together? To help us communicate better. It was the first suggestion he'd made that acknowledged he might be part of the problem, not just me. A small step, but a step nonetheless. Yes, I said. I think that would be a good idea. The following Tuesday, I attended my first rescheduled art class with Diana Holloway. The other students had already formed connections, but they welcomed me warmly. Diana was everything I had hoped for. Challenging, insightful, and genuinely interested in helping each student develop their unique style. After class, I felt lighter than I had in weeks. Standing at my easel, brush in hand, I had been fully present, not thinking about Gregory or money or family drama, just focused on color and light and shadow. It was the kind of freedom I had been seeking all along. 6 months passed in a blur of art classes, therapy sessions, and cautious steps toward rebuilding trust with Gregory. The Diana Holloway masterclass culminated in the promised exhibition at Riverdale Gallery. My watercolor of Walter's Mustang parked beside our old lake house was selected as one of the featured pieces, prominently displayed near the entrance. In the months since our confrontation, much had changed. Gregory had begun seeing a financial counselor, coming to terms with his unhealthy relationship with money and status. He and Vanessa had made the difficult decision to downsize, selling their Oakwood Estates home, and purchasing a more modest house that didn't strain their finances. The process hadn't been easy. Gregory struggled with what he perceived as a step backward. But Vanessa stood firm, refusing to continue living beyond their means. Our mother-son relationship was slowly healing through weekly counseling sessions with Dr. Reynolds, a family therapist who specialized in adult parent-child relationships. In our third session, Gregory finally articulated something that helped me understand his behavior better. When Dad died, I panicked, he admitted. He was always the financially savvy one. I worried that without him you'd make mistakes or be taken advantage of. I convinced myself I was protecting you, but really I was trying to control you because I was afraid. Afraid of what? Dr. Reynolds asked. Gregory looked at me, his eyes welling with tears. Afraid of losing you too. Afraid you'd give all your money away and end up dependent on me when I can barely keep my own finances straight. Afraid you'd move away to pursue art and I'd be left alone. The honesty was painful but necessary. Fear explained his behavior, though it didn't excuse it. In subsequent sessions, we explored healthier ways for Gregory to express his concerns without attempting to control my choices. The breakthrough came when Gregory attended the gallery opening for my art class. I hadn't expected him to come. Our relationship was still tentative, our Sunday dinners resumed but somewhat strained. Yet there he was with Vanessa, studying each painting intently, lingering longest before mine. "This is really good, Mom," he said, genuine admiration in his voice. "I had no idea you were this talented." "Thank you," I said, unexpectedly moved by his recognition. "I get it now," he continued. "Why this class meant so much to you. This isn't just a hobby. This is who you are." Later that evening, as the gallery began to empty, Gregory approached me with a wrapped package. "It's not much," he said, uncharacteristically nervous. "But I wanted to give you something to celebrate tonight." I unwrapped it carefully to find a beautiful set of professional-grade brushes, the kind I had admired in art supply stores but considered too extravagant to purchase for myself. "No strings attached," he added quickly. "They're not for any specific purpose or project. Just for whatever brings you joy." Those words, "whatever brings you joy," marked a significant shift in our relationship. For the first time, Gregory was acknowledging that my happiness mattered independently of his expectations or desires. It was a small thing perhaps, but meaningful. Over the following months, our relationship continued to evolve. Gregory no longer offered unsolicited financial advice or questioned my spending. When I mentioned plans for a painting trip to Provence the following summer, He expressed interest in the itinerary rather than concern about the cost. Small changes but significant ones. Vanessa and I grew closer through the experience. She confided that Gregory's behavior had raised red flags for her as well, prompting difficult but necessary conversations about financial transparency in their marriage. They were working with a financial planner to develop a sustainable budget and pay down the debt they had accumulated. Barbara returned to Arizona but remained an important part of my support system, calling weekly to check in. We made plans for her to join me on the province trip, fulfilling a dream we had shared since college. The trust and estate documents remained in place, but their existence faded into the background of our relationship, rather than standing as a barrier between us. Patricia had been right. The changes weren't punitive but protective, ensuring that my wishes would be respected regardless of how family dynamics might shift over time. 1 year after the art class incident, Gregory asked if I would teach him to paint. We set up easels in my backyard, facing the old maple tree Walter had planted when we first moved in. Gregory's initial attempts were awkward. He had always favored sports over arts as a child, but he approached the process with unexpected patience. "I wish I had tried this sooner," he said, frowning at his lopsided rendition of the tree. "Maybe if I had, I would have understood earlier why it matters so much to you." "It's never too late to try something new," I told him. "That's what this year has taught me." As we painted side by side, I reflected on how our painful confrontation had ultimately saved our relationship, rather than destroyed it. By standing firm and requiring respect, I had forced Gregory to see me as a complete person with my own dreams and agency, not just as his mother or a future inheritance. The experience had changed me too. I had discovered a strength I didn't know I possessed, the courage to set boundaries even with those I loved most. Walter would have been proud. "Ellie," I could almost hear him say, "you finally learned that loving someone doesn't mean letting them walk all over you." That evening after Gregory and Vanessa left, I sat in my studio looking at our paintings side by side. Mine showed the tree in detail, each leaf and branch carefully rendered. Gregory's was more impressionistic, the proportions off but the essence somehow captured. Different approaches, both valid in their own way. Perhaps that was the lesson we had both needed to learn. That there was room for both of us to flourish in our own distinct ways, neither at the expense of the other. I thought about the journey we had taken, from the shock of discovering Gregory's betrayal to the slow, intentional rebuilding of trust between us. It hadn't been easy, and there had been moments when I wondered if our relationship could survive. But standing up for myself hadn't destroyed our bond. It had transformed it into something stronger, more honest, and ultimately more loving than before. What do you think about how I handled this situation with my son? Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with someone you love? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for more real-life experiences and lessons learned along the way. Don't forget to share this video with someone who might need encouragement to stand up for themselves. Thank you for listening, and remember, it's never too late to pursue your passions or to require respect from those around you. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.